And from the war in Iraq to the war in Afghanistan, we're joined now by Senator Lindsey Graham, a key Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He is just back from Afghanistan. He's in Clemson, South Carolina this morning. And I want to talk about Afghanistan, Senator. But you just heard what the general just said. If we get to the end of next year and the Iraqis want us to stay longer, we would consider that. I think it would be very, very far-fetched to think that the Congress would authorize sending more troops to Iraq at this point. What's your take?
Well, I hope they do ask us to have an enduring relationship politically, militarily, and economically. We have troops in Germany and Japan since World War II. I don't think most Americans would care if we had troops in Iraq as long as they were safe and secure. What's happened in Iraq is transformative. A democracy in the heart of the Mideast between Syria and Iran. We're all safer if they can continue to make progress. So I hope we will have an enduring relationship of having some military presence in Iraq. I think that would be smart, not to let things unwind over the next 3 or 5 years.
All right, let's shift now to Afghanistan. You're just back, another of many trips there. You were in the Army Reserve. You were doing your reserve duty there this time. Senator Graham, as most people know, you were one of those who encouraged the surge there. You thought it was necessary. You were totally behind it, but you also were very much against the president setting a deadline of pulling our troops out next year. Number one, because you thought it was signaling the enemy when we're leaving, but the other part was you were not sure we'd have the job done by then. After this trip, what's your assessment now?
Well, after this trip, I think we can transition next summer some areas of Afghanistan to Afghan control. I see progress I had not seen before, so I see a scenario if things continue to develop the way they are, that certain areas of Afghanistan can be transitioned to Afghan control, and we could remove some troops safely without undermining the overall war mission. But at the end of the day, the president has to let the Afghan people, the regional players know, the American people know that we're not going to leave until we're successful. But I do see a path forward next summer to transition in certain areas of Afghanistan, but we will need substantial troops well past July of 2011 to get this right.
This is a change in position for you. 6 weeks ago, you were not saying you thought we could safely begin to withdraw. You are now saying things have changed and you think that's possible.
Yeah, it's due to progress I've seen on the ground. It has to continue. It will always be conditions-based, but there are areas of Afghanistan that this new commitment of troops, without the surge of troops, we couldn't hold it together much longer. If we had no troops, it'd go back into civil war, but this additional military capacity is beginning to show some effects in certain parts of Afghanistan. By next summer, hopefully, we're on offense now. We got the ball back. For years, we've been playing defense. By next summer, I think we can cross midfield and some of our troops can come home. But having said that, there will be a substantial need for many troops there well past July 2011, and the Afghan government has to do its part on governance for us to be successful. There's a lot yet to be done. It needs to be conditions-based. The president needs to speak more openly about why we can't lose in Afghanistan to get the American people behind staying and being successful.
The unknown component here is Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan. One of your colleagues on the Armed Services Committee said to me just this week, this is a man who has still had a tribal outlook. He has no talent for governing, and he has no strategic outlook. He said, basically, we're stuck with him. What's your assessment of Karzai right now?
Well, he's an elected leader of Afghanistan. We've recognized the results. Some people are saying they're stuck with Lindsey Graham. That's the way democracy is. I think he has the capability to rally his people. He's an articulate leader. He's got to be all in to win. His government's not at war with the insurgency. They need to change their laws to allow us to detain people or security threats. He needs to fight corruption. We have 3 major cases brewing from the Major Crimes Task Force, kind of the untouchables in Afghanistan. He cannot interfere with those cases. We need corruption trials going forward. We need to show that we're at war with the insurgency, and he needs to rally his people. I think he's capable of doing that, but I'm going to make sure from a Congress's point of view that we have benchmarks and measurements. It's now time to put him to the test. It's now time to put ourselves to the test because we're running out of time here at home.
All right. Senator Graham, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Katie.